Talks between Iran and the U.S. have been further complicated by a fresh round of strikes around the Strait of Hormuz. Let's bring in our Reggie Cecchini now to learn more about the recent escalation. Reggie, what led to the recent drone and missile exchanges between Iran and the U.S.? Can the recent resumption of strikes in the Gulf indicate a collapse in peace talks?
I mean, it's very possible, Jazan. Look, overnight, we heard from United States Central Command that Iran fired 7 ballistic missiles and drones towards the Strait of Hormuz and towards Gulf nations, activating air defenses in both Kuwait and Bahrain. U.S. CENTCOM saying that it intercepted all of those drones and missiles, while the United States says that in response, it then carried out strikes not only on Iranian mainland, but on Qasem Island as well. So what this does is complicate what was already a very complicated negotiation path forward and an already fragile ceasefire, because this is now the second or third time in the last couple of weeks that both sides have exchanged fire with each other. Earlier in the week, we heard Donald Trump suggest that there may be a deal by this weekend. Then just yesterday in Wisconsin, he said that the United States would be wrapping up this war very quickly, suggesting that negotiations were moving at a brisk pace. But that is being countered by messaging from Tehran to suggest that negotiations are at a complete standstill because there are various issues that have still to be ironed out, also claiming that this latest round of fire was a violation of the ceasefire that was enacted in early April. So all of it is complicating this kind of diplomatic effort to try and move forward with some kind of settlement on this war. The question is who has the upper hand right now, because both sides claim that they are winning.
All right, let's move over to Lebanon now. Israeli strikes killed 9 people just days after a new ceasefire deal was announced. Tell us more about that.
Right. And remember, the situation between Israel and Hezbollah is one of those demands from Iran in order to get them towards signing some kind of peace deal with the United States. You're right. We saw Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon kill 9 people. That included a general within the Lebanese military. That strike is now under investigation and is facing fierce pushback from within Lebanon to suggest that the Israelis are moving forward in a careless manner. You're also right in that it follows what was another attempt to try and get a ceasefire negotiated. The top diplomats from Lebanon and Israel were at the State Department earlier this week, but the efforts were short-lived. Hezbollah immediately rejected any kind of truce between these two countries and ultimately started firing rockets back into northern Israel, with the IDF watching its tanks roll through southern parts of Lebanon. So again, this is another complicating factor to try and get something brokered between the United States and Iran, because remember, Israel has its own set of goals in this war. Number one, to manage what's happening in Iran, and at the same time, to take out the threat that it says Hezbollah poses.
Okay, and before we let you go, Reggie, what should we watch out for in the next coming days?
Well, in terms of what's going on in Iran, we need to see what happens with negotiations. We know that Pakistani mediators are back in Iran to try and bring something forward, or at least get Iran back to the table. And we also know that the chief negotiators from the United States, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, were holding meetings with experts late into the week to try and figure out how to move forward with the nuclear situation inside Iran. All of it, however, kind of sits around as circular conversations, and we need to see whether or not there's anything that will actually move the needle forward, because as Donald Trump said that this weekend there could be a deal, at the same time he is suggesting that there could be additional strikes on Iran if they don't ultimately come to the table. That carries political risk, because in the U.S. we are watching inflation tick up, and that is because of gas and energy prices. Even as the president says, take gas and energy out and inflation's not that bad, you can't simply do that. So there's political risk here, especially less than 5 months towards the midterms. Jazan, we need to watch to see what the political fallout is going to be if this war continues to escalate. And if it kind of sits in a holding pattern, we also need to see if there's any kind of political blowback to make Donald Trump actually move forward.
All right, Reggie, thank you so much for your reporting.
Thank you.
That is Reggie Cecchini in Washington.